You in today?
Well, when I made the call initially, I was kind of in a down state of mind, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I left the message and I didn't hear
Okay.
back for a few weeks. So by the time I did get the call, I was like, well, I kind of feel okay.
Yeah.
But then, honestly, I have a daughter, Taylor. She is 30, and she lives in Ohio. And she came home, and we always have our little talks in the car.
Yeah.
And she said that she was going to counseling, and she said, I think everybody should go to counseling. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so, that was, part of it. But then also, I think I wrote about it. Just there's some days where I wake up and I just feel down. I do not cry easily, but I sometimes will get that feeling, and it's like I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay.
I'm very happily married. Our kids are great. We have grandchildren. I'm retired. What the heck is there to be sad about? And it just kind of hits me out of the blue. I can't really identify where it's coming from. So there is that, and then, like I said, sometimes I think I have undiagnosed ADD. One thing I didn't mention in there was years ago I was tested for ADD, and the test came back as not having ADD, but that I had PTSD, and that stems from my father. I guess we'll get right into it here. But,
That's all right.
he is no longer living, but he sexually abused me when I was a child. My parents got divorced when I was about 3 years old, and we to this day don't know why, but my brother and I were separated.
Okay.
I went with my mom, he went with my dad. And so we did not see each other for 5 years. And then my grandmother, my dad's mother, she reunited us. And so my brother and I are extremely close.
Good.
However, it also meant visitation started up again. And so I was 10. And the whole reason we got together is because I had a sister that was just born.
Oh.
And so we went to my grandmother's, and my dad was there with his family and all of that. And he started sexually abusing me pretty quickly when visitation started. And I would say that probably went on for 3 years. Hopefully I didn't start my period until I was 14. Otherwise, can you imagine?
And how old were you when you started visitation again?
10. Yeah. And so I am sure that has had long-term effects. I did go to counseling for a while, many years ago, to address that. I don't know that it really ever was addressed. I think I always tell myself that I'm fine. I got through it, and it was horrible. And when I was in counseling before, I wrote a letter to him, and I wrote a letter to my mother, because my mom ignored the cues and me crying because I didn't want to go and that kind of thing. And I never sent my mom her letter, but I did send my dad his letter. And that was, something. As an adult, I went back and forth. I would either want nothing to do with them, or every now and then I would, I would kind of open up again. And once I sent that letter, it was a long time before I talked to him again.
Okay.
He tried, but I was not willing. And where was I going with that? I don't know. But anyhow, so then in his 60s, he passed away very suddenly. And I know, I've always had this dream of being at his deathbed.
Really?
And him listening to me and me telling him, how could you do this to me? I'm your daughter. One thing for a stepdad, but you're my blood, my father. And basically just telling him, I don't like you. Because I've always said, if he were not my father as a person, I would not have cared for him. He was, he could be very vulgar. I remember him, boy, this is kind of just,
That's all right.
I remember him I have a niece, my brother,
Yes.
Chuck.
Okay.
He has 2 daughters, and his oldest niece, she was quite large busted, and she was young, and my dad would comment about it, like, oh, we had 2 aunts that were twins, and we would talk about how she's built like Esther, and their names rhymed. I can't think, but anyway, just stuff like that, and it was just
Okay.
like, what is wrong with you?
So you would continue to go back and visit with your father,
I did,
or in the
kind
same
of
place?
back and forth,
Okay.
and in counseling before we talked about triggers. My husband for a long time thought about growing a goatee,
Yeah.
and I said I can't deal with that because as soon as I said even when you don't shave for 8 hours, it triggers I see my father. They don't look alike, but
That's just the
both
facial
have dark hair, and then,
Mhm.
well, now I finally gave in, and my husband has a full, and it looks fantastic. I told him
Oh,
one
really?
day, don't you ever shave that off, because it looks so good. But it was funny how there are triggers.
Yes.
And
so how did you manage to work through those triggers?
I don't honestly know with him. I guess I just
Okay.
finally said, well, okay, let's give it a try. I
Mhm.
told him, that it was a trigger for me. He
Mhm.
understood. But I think I just came to the conclusion that it's okay. He's not my dad. Let's see how it goes. If it really bothers me, then I'd ask him to.
So how many years has he had his
He's
facial
had it.
hair?
It's funny because just today a memory came up from 5 years ago,
Yeah.
4 years ago, on Facebook, and I said, "You had that beard 4 years ago." It doesn't seem like it's been that long. But yeah.
I know.
So.
Time flies.
Oh my gosh.
I'm finding the older we get, the
Oh.
faster it goes too. So
When you retire, it really does.
I know. I hear
Yeah.
that. I hear people are far busier retired than
my
they
calendar is definitely more colorful.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's fun things. So
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, I suppose.
So basically you're feeling quite blue and you just wake up and you don't understand.
Yeah.
So tell me more about this feeling. What is it like?
So I wake up and it's just a sadness. Sometimes I come out of it within a couple hours.
Okay.
Sometimes I kind of feel it all day. Sometimes I can identify what it is. I kind of had this yesterday. My best friend lost her daughter when her daughter was 32, and yesterday was her daughter's birthday. I went and had lunch with, her name's Lori, we've been friends for 40 plus years, and it was just wonderful. I mean, it snapped me out of it. And
Good.
it snapped her, I mean, she was doing really well, actually, considering it was her daughter. But, waking up and I just thinking about Lori and that situation, I think kind of made me sad. But that
Yeah.
made sense to me. But sometimes it's just a sadness, and I take 2 different medications, which
I saw that.
I've tried to go off of.
Really?
It scares the heck out of my husband
Okay.
when I do try. It's been a long time since I've tried because it physically made me ill.
Okay.
One of them affects her. It's the generic, and that is nasty stuff to get off of.
Is it?
Love to get off of it, but I just feel so much better taking that with Wellbutrin. It's been
Yes.
many, many years.
Because if it's working for you,
Yeah,
then that's okay.
yeah.
So
I guess, it's just, that's all I just explain, that's how I can explain it, is
Mhm.
just, kind of a sad
does it
feeling.
impact your physical, any symptoms, or just that overwhelming sadness?
I guess just more the overwhelming sadness.
Okay.
I'm probably not as active on that, because it just depends on the day anyway. It may have nothing to do with that, because, some days I'm scheduled to take my mom on errands, and so of course I would still do that.
Right.
When I'm busy, I come out of it. Let's just say that.
Okay.
It's yeah.
So
when
you
I
notice
have more time to sit and think about things, then
then it's harder.
yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like lately I've really been doing well. I've been feeling good and
Mhm.
happy, and But yeah.
But it doesn't stop you from doing your everyday.
It doesn't,
Okay.
no.
And when did you start noticing that?
Well, it's
the
actually
feeling?
since I retired. I mean,
Okay.
I've had like, again, triggers. When my daughter, Taylor, she's 30, when she comes home and then leaves, I have a really hard time when she leaves, or if I go to see her. And I'm not like, I don't cry, I just feel like I need to.
Mhm.
And, you know, it used to last a few hours, and now it'll hit me for a couple days.
Okay. So it's
And-
lasting longer when.
Yeah, yeah. And I think with her, it's just, we just have such a connection, and, you know, I don't get to see her enough, you know, and so, but again, those are things I can explain. It's, you know, I know what's causing it. I just don't remember it being that bad even a couple years ago. And it's like, why is it so
Bad now.
And honestly, since I retired, I kind of wonder if is it because I'm not going to work, which is great. I'm not.
Right.
It's awesome. But I do miss the people I worked with. I worked at the City of Iowa City for 26 years. 22 of those years I worked in Parks and Recreation and managed the Iowa City Farmers Market. The last 2 years, because my job in that department, we had people that their jobs were eliminated and I absorbed, and it was just insanity. I was just ready to, and a job came open in the city clerk's office, and I applied, I got the position, so I worked in a small office with 3 other people, and we became very close, you know, and so I miss them. But we do try to get to, we're getting together next Friday, so I mean.
So you see them still?
Yes, yeah.
And they're
So-
still in the office?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, they kind of, they miss me, but at the same time, they're like, how could you do this?
Yeah. You're so
But
lucky.
anyhow, it's some of that, but I can't, you know, like I said, I mean, why be sad? I mean, like today I don't feel sad at all, I'm just fine, but,
Yeah.
you know, but why does it hit me when it does? And it's like, is it just chemical imbalances, you know, that's kind of what I think it is sometimes, because I can't think of anything that triggered those days where I can't
Right.
explain it.
So it's just, you've just kind of been noticing it more and more
Yeah.
since you retired?
Yes.
Okay. So how often do you feel down in a week?
I probably have at least one day, maybe. Not a lot. I mean, you know, the day that I called was just, I guess it must have been a really, I'm trying to recall. I talked to my husband about it, and I just said, you know, I think I'm gonna seek counseling. I said, you know, something's wrong. I just don't feel
Right.
happy as I feel like I should feel. As I
Right.
feel like I should feel. And also at the time, I'm very critical of myself.
Okay.
I compare myself to others all the time. Wish I could stop doing that, but it just seems like I can't. I don't. Right now, I'm on a diet plan that I've done before, and it works very well. It's pretty extreme, but before I went on that, I was really down as well because of my weight. I don't like the way I look. I've been this weight before many years ago, and then went on this program. I lost 38 pounds, and then in 5 years gained it all back. And so I tried many different things and decided I'm going to do this again. It's called Optavia. It's very expensive.
Is it?
Yeah. But I just told myself I'm investing in my health.
Yeah.
And it's working. So
Good.
that helps my, I guess, self-worth. One, I'm not thinking about, because I said 24/7. I thought about, I hate the way I look, I don't like the way clothes fit me. how did I let myself get back to this way? How can I get back to where I was? And it was literally 24/7. I just
So that negative self-talk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly that.
All right.
And I don't do that as much now, but I started the plan again the 19th, Monday, and physically I feel. I lost 7 pounds. It's not like it's a
Wow.
huge amount.
Good job.
But you lose weight quickly on this, and I just have to figure out how to, because I'll do it for a few months.
Right. And then how do we sustain
Maintain
that?
it. And they have a program to do that, but again, it's so expensive. It's like,
Right.
I don't want to keep paying this forever. So one, I have to become more disciplined. So that's kind of
Yeah.
So then it's like, is the negative self-talk, is it due to my childhood history? Going back to sexual abuse, when my parents divorced and for a short time before the divorce was final, my brother and I did stay with my mom,
Okay.
and we had a male babysitter, and the babysitter sexually abused me as well. I can remember some of that. My memory is actually not very good, but I can remember that, and I can remember a lot, unfortunately, some of the bad things. Some people put it out of their mind. It's like, I can't forget those things.
Right.
And so that was my first experience, and then years later with my dad. I remember coming home from church one day, we were walking, and I literally said to my mom, and I don't remember the kid's name, but I say it was Mike. I said, why does Mike put his thing in mine? And my mom just, what? Just
Right.
flipped
She
out.
did.
But I'm sure my mom, obviously we didn't have him as a babysitter anymore, but I don't think anything else happened. I was very young. I don't know
Right.
that, but I sure don't remember anything happening. So, and sometimes I would think my dad knew about that eventually, and it's like, how did they pick the person that they know is not going to tell? It's like he had 7 children, and there's me, and then I have a brother, his name's Brad, and I said, he's a half-brother, and I said I would bet money that my dad used him.
Okay.
Because he soiled his pants well into, probably 4 or 5 years old. And I just feel like there was something going on with that kid, and I feel like that was one of them. That this happened to him. I had a sister, still have a sister, half-sister, Christine, who said she was abused, and I hate to say this because being someone that is, when you do finally tell somebody, you want them to believe you.
Right.
But I, from the get-go, didn't believe her. And she eventually admitted that she had lied, that he didn't abuse her.
Did she know about your past history?
She did at that point. She was an adult when this came out.
Okay.
And she was one of those people that just kind of habitually fabricated stories. So I feel like I kind of have a sense for that, but I'm sure I could go out in the street and pick 10 women and 6 of them have been abused. I feel bad sometimes for not believing her, but I just knew she wasn't being honest, because I could tell you details and stuff about my dad. And she, like said, she had what is that when you can't remember things and then it comes
amnesia. Yeah.
And she said she had done that. Well, it's not amnesia. Well, I guess it is, but it's like people that when they start going to counseling and memories start popping up, and I think that's when she said these things were coming up, and I can't remember specifically what she told me, but I remember thinking she's lying, she's not telling the truth, and she found out she wasn't. I'm not real close to those siblings.
Okay.
I'm probably the closest to her, but honestly, so my brother Chuck and I are the ones that are very close. We are the only full blood siblings, and then my dad had 5 more children, and while they're all full except one, one was a step brother that he had adopted, the woman who married had Jeff, and then yeah. So the other siblings I see very rarely, but yeah. So Chuck and I are close, but
And you have a husband?
I do have a husband.
Yes. And
And
how many children?
We have 5 together.
5
So
children.
I had 3 daughters and had 2 sons.
Okay.
He has 2 sons. I say that like they're. So.
So you have a very full life and full family life. And-
Yes, I have 4 grandchildren.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
It is. It's awesome. So,
Awesome. So when you're thinking of your supports, who do you tend to go to support you and
probably Brad, and that's probably my husband.
your husband, Brad?
Yeah, sorry.
Mhm. Nope, you're
Brad,
good.
too. Chuck, I would. Chuck has a lot of. He was mistreated terribly as a child, and by my dad's wife, and he has enough of his own things, and I just feel like I don't want to. But we will sometimes.
William.
Just start talking and things come out. But Brad is definitely my biggest support. I did not tell my mother about this until it's been 6 months maybe.
Is your mom still alive?
She is.
She is.
She pain in the butt, but she is.
So you're the one that's helping take care to the appointments and
Myself and Chuck
okay.
take turns. Well, not kind of take turns. When I can't do it, he'll fill in.
Right. So you're all very in close vicinity to each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she lives in Marion, you in Manana, and my brother lives
Okay.
in Cedar Rapids.
And so tell me about your relationship with your mom.
Well, I'm trying to, we're close, but not as close as she thinks, I think.
Okay.
She's, it's like, even my kids are just like, Grandma's gonna be there, she can be very negative. I feel like she's improved in that a little bit. And I said to Brad, it's interesting because now that I'm retired and I spend a day with her almost every week, or at least 3 days a month, I'm actually more tolerant of her. And I think it's because I've just decided or learned or accepted that this is who she is and I'm not going to change her. So let's make the best of what we have.
Yeah.
My mom is not, she's not very educated. She quit school in 10th grade, and her and my dad got married when she was 16 and he was 18. Socially, she isn't either. I struggle with that sometimes with her. I don't know. If Brad were here, he could tell you.
Yeah.
What he says is like, she stayed with us for a couple of days because where she lived there had been a fire, and it was horrible. It was like 2 or 3 days, and it was like, I can't do this. And Brad was out in the, I don't know, 3 Seasons porch, and we could hear her, and he said, she's terrible to you. And I said, she is? Because I don't.
Okay. So tell me more. How does he feel that she's terrible to
He
you?
feels like she's very, well, the negativity, but, oh gosh, I wish I could think of an example. Well, for one, nothing's ever right, like I made her
So
coffee.
she's very critical.
Yes. I made her coffee, and she was like, oh my God, this is awful. And I'm like, well, then don't drink it. I mean, whatever. I mean, we like it, and,
Right.
But, okay, the one example I can think of when she stayed with us, we had gotten up the morning she came the night before, and I said, Mom, I'm going to make breakfast. What do you want? I said, I've got eggs, got bacon, I can make pancakes, I can make what? No. Don't want any of it. Toast? No. I said, okay. I said, well, what are you going to eat? She goes, I'll get something when I'm ready. I said, okay. Well, then she's talking to the manager at where she lives, and she says, well, they ate in front of me this morning, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? I didn't hear it. My husband heard it.
Okay.
And he said, did you hear that? And I said, no. And he told me, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, so then it took me a while, but later I said to her, why did you tell her that we ate in front of you? And she said, oh, I was kidding. And I said, you were not kidding. You wanted her to feel sorry for you, I guess. But I said, I don't appreciate you making me look.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't manager didn't know who I was, but we certainly spoke a lot the next couple of weeks, because it took him a while to get her back in her work. That was awful. So then she ended up staying with my brother because I was still working. And she doesn't, my mother's never drove. She's never had a driver's license.
So you have to drive her
So
everywhere.
she's very dependent, you know, if she wants to go anywhere. So staying with us, way out in Mana, there's not many places she can go.
Yes, right.
And so she stayed with my brother, but he was, at the end, he was like, she's going home. Because once the apartment was ready, she was like, well, you know, I suppose, and
So she was dragging her feet to going back.
And he said she's going home.
Okay.
So he just is, it's difficult.
So has she been critical of you for your whole life?
You know, I told my husband, I feel like my mom has been a different person through the years, or at least in my memory. I think, you know, I think back, and when we were real little, I mean, she left us home alone, and we were tiny. I mean, like 3 and 4. My brother and I were just almost exactly a year apart. So she wasn't a great parent at that time. But then obviously she got babysitters sometimes, but when she couldn't, I guess, she would leave us. And she must have, and thinking, I'm like, she must have put us to bed. But we knew we were alone because one time my brother was sleepwalking and he went outside, and I went outside to get him. And we were just tiny kids. I mean, I just think, who does that? And I know it happens. So there was that. And then she divorced my dad and she married Richard, who is his dick, and he really was, but anyway.
Yeah.
She had I have another half brother, Carter, who we are close as well. Anyway, she had Carter. I felt like at that time she was very motherly. I felt like she went through this period where she was a housewife. What I recall, I mean, we had dinner on the table every single night. She was just like, you know, the June Cleaver kind of. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't go that far,
but
then,
consistent for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Then they divorced, and they were married 7 years. They were married in 68, so I was 6 years old when I got married, so what age I was, 12. No, I can't remember if I started visitation with my dad again before they divorced. I don't think it was. So. Either way, they may have only been married 4 years now. Like, back to that. I'm trying to keep it all straight. But anyway, so they got divorced, and then she was kind of back to that sowing her wild oats, I guess. And she would leave us alone. But we were a little older. But yeah, I remember calling bars and having her page many times.
So it sounds like you were more the adult in that relationship than your mom.
Yes, and still am, and always have been.
Okay.
And even with my brother, even though I was a year younger, I was kind of that. I mean, we always laugh about the story of him getting in the willow tree at my grandmother's house, and I would jump down and he couldn't, and I'd take my tricycle over and put it up to the tree so he could get down, and I taught him how to tie his shoes, and you know, and I still feel that role a little bit. He's very independent, can take care of himself, but I still feel that role.
So you feel like you're a caretaker of
Yeah.
your brother.
A little bit. I mean, I don't have to physically go and do anything for him. He's very, very capable. But mentally, I feel like
You're still there. It's kind of like your daughter.
yeah.
You still want to be there for her, and she's so far away.
Yeah. I don't always like that role with my brother. But I definitely, you know, even just texting, I feel it. Yeah.
So when something goes bad, that kind of impacts you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. So, and with my mom, if something goes bad for her, she just gets angry. You cannot sit her down and have a productive conversation.
Okay.
Like, there was a time where I thought she should, antidepressants. And she wouldn't hear it. I mean, she would get angry if you said anything, and I would try to tell her, like, it's a chemical imbalance. It's just like you taking your blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
She just wouldn't hear of it. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. She's very stubborn. Yes.
I'm assuming she still is.
Yes.
And getting older is, you probably have to point out more things for her, and
Yes. Yeah. I would like to point out more, but I don't, because I don't want to. I just.
because you don't want that argument.
As I say, I pick my battles.
Okay. Yeah.
When she started telling people that a friend of hers had Ebola, I was like, Mom, how about E. coli? And she said, oh yeah, that's what. And I said, don't be telling people that she has Ebola. I was just, so there's times where you have to.
Right.
And I picked
I
that
can
one.
relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
So what else, what are some of the other stressors that you feel, other than maybe brother having challenging,
Mhm.
and then you kind of feel that,
Stressors.
stressors, or what other stressors are prevalent in your life?
Well, I mean, I have a very different relationship with the three of my daughters.
Yeah.
Taylor and I mean, she's the baby, and I guess maybe there is really something about that. And she's dating. She's a lesbian.
Okay.
I like the girl she's with now, but we adored the girl she was with before. And when they broke up, which they're still friends and they still speak, it was just heartbreaking, and I still feel sad about that sometimes. That's a whole nother session. Taylor is extremely smart. She is the most organized. She's very much, so I've been married 3 times. She's very much like her dad. Very organized, very anal, but not as bad as he was. So smart. But she's 30 and her girlfriend is 55. So there's a 25-year age difference.
Okay.
And she's always been an older soul, not that much older. At first, of course, you think all the bad things. You think, why? Who's taking advantage of who here?
Right.
Having met Lisa and seeing them together, I have no fears whatsoever. No qualms at all. And I really like Lisa. But she's not Sammy, who she had before. It's just Sammy was just a few years older. Everybody loves Sammy, but they separated for the right reasons. It's just, but anyway, so there's that.
Yeah.
It doesn't stress me a lot, but sometimes I just think, where's this
Bothers you.
gonna go? My middle daughter, Whitney, she has 2 of my grandkids. Whitney is more critical, kind of says what's on her mind, and sometimes I feel like I walk on eggshells a little bit with her. But at the same time, she has issues. She has ADD real bad, and when I see videos of people and how they keep their house with ADD, it's her. And I clean her house every time we go.
Okay.
Because I can't stand it. It's bad enough that I'm like, if I'm gonna sit here with it's usually because the babysitter can't work that day, and I'm babysitting the kids or whatever. Yeah. And so I just come along there. So that stresses me with her, but I adore her. She's funny. She's got a good husband, good job. Everything's good, and that's what I have to tell myself, that the house doesn't matter until it gets to the point where it does matter.
Yes.
I guess. And then Stephanie, my oldest, she was the most challenging as a teenager, but now she's doing wonderfully. She has 2 of my grandchildren as well, good husband, very patient man. Both of my son-in-laws are very patient. She actually works for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and she's currently the acting CEO for the one in Cedar Rapids, because the other CEO was laid off.
Good for her, though.
And she's interviewed once for that position, and she has another interview coming up. But so anyway, she's doing fabulous.
Good.
And they went through a period where they lost a home, they didn't pay their bills, and now they have a beautiful home, and they pay their bills, and so
She's learned.
their life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then my stepsons, I have one, Ben, he and Taylor, my youngest, are just 6 weeks apart, they're both 30. He lives in Minneapolis. Ben is just an easygoing guy, always has been, easygoing kid, just, and then we have Zach, and Zach is 34, I believe. He was 33. He was a huge handful. Still can be, but at least he's out of the house. And he's on his own, sort of. We don't help him financially. His grandmother helps him a lot.
Okay.
So that was a big stress for Brad and I during, when all the kids were home. And now that he's an adult, we have discussions about him, and we see him. I mean, it's not like we're, but he's just,
He's still part of the family.
he is absolutely part of the family, but he just hasn't made all the right decisions in his life, I guess. He does, but I said I'm grateful he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink. It's none of that. It's just the day-to-day responsibility. He has a full-time job, but yet he can't pay his rent. His grandma's buying him a car. You've said a lot.
That is what we're here for.
I know.
Yeah. So what kind of changes would you like to see in a meeting with me?
I don't know.
What would you prioritize? Is it the blue feeling? Is
I guess it would
the
be.
critical?
Well, in the self, yeah. I feel like I've been better since, it seems silly, but since going on this diet and seeing that it's working on the scale.
So
Something so small, but it's a sense of accomplishment. And maybe that's part of what I miss about working. Because, for instance, when I did manage the market, we went from 30-some vendors to when I left to 240.
Wow.
And that was a huge sense of accomplishment. Every year, I would go to the market and see all the people, it's not like Cedar Rapids downtown market, but we would have a few thousand. There was always that sense of accomplishment with that.
okay.
And, maybe I don't really have that so much. Other than, hopefully I'll keep losing weight. But,
Sure. Yeah.
and I think too, some of it, like I've said before, follow through for me is not good.
Okay.
That again goes back to the dieting though. Like I'll start and I'm gung ho, and it's almost like I know I'm going to fail before I start.
All right.
And with this one, because I've done it before and I know it was successful, it's totally different.
So you kind of have a self-defeating thought pattern when you try some new things.
That's absolutely, yeah,
That you understand that sense of accomplishment energizes you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Maybe I need to seek approval.
Do you need approval?
I think I might. My second husband, Randy, Taylor's dad, I have so much respect for that man. I mean, he took in my other two daughters, and to this day, it's like they're his. And he didn't have to do that. He helped pay for their college, and of course, spends time with them, and they're still family. But he was very difficult to live with because he was so structured and anal. But to this day, I know I seek his approval. And I said, my first husband, Robert, who's Stephanie Whitney's dad, again, that's a whole nother session, but he was the guy who was so laid back that I was working and he wasn't. And he got into some legal trouble and things like that. And then I met Randy, who was completely on the other side, very responsible, very structured. And then we divorced eventually. And I always said if I can meet a man that was a little bit of one and a little bit of the other, and that's what Brad is. He's both. But I know to this day I seek approval from Randy. I mean, if we're talking about something,
Right.
dance or whatever, which is ridiculous. It's not like he's a father. But I think what happened with us is I was in a position, I was a single mom, I needed to be rescued, and Randy needed to rescue somebody. And he's still that way. I mean, he does a lot of volunteer work, and I mean, he's a great guy. We just became friends, you know?
Yeah.
But when it got to the point where I didn't necessarily need rescued anymore, I think he kind of went, it was like I wasn't that, I don't know, was I not that challenge anymore? I don't know. It was like we both just kind of, I grew
Okay.
up and apart. And he, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah.
But that is still his approval that
Yeah.
drives you.
Yeah, and that would, Brad would just, I mean, even Brad has recognized that with the kids and everything. Yeah. I don't know. It sounds weird to say he was younger than me. But I don't know, it was he like a father figure that I needed to,
To fill that space.
yeah, yes. Yeah. Hard to say.
Very good. So tell me what you like to do for fun.
So let's see. I love to fish, which I just
Okay.
discovered in like the last 2 years.
Okay.
My husband and I, we have like 7 kayaks, which there's only 2 of us, but we have little ones for the grandkids and such.
Yeah.
This year we just bought this little fishing boat. It's awesome because we now, instead of rowing while we're trying to fish,
Right.
we go on that. So yes, we like to go to the lake
Okay.
and do that. We both like to garden. He is the master at that. We have a beautiful yard, and he gets all the credit. It's,
Good.
you know, he's also been retired for 2 years before I did.
Okay.
But this season, I'm able to, like this morning, we worked outside from 9 until 12:30, and, you know, I joke that our neighbors before I retired probably didn't even know he was married.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's the one who's always outside, and I
Took care of the inside.
did, or we would come home from work, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just not up for this. Like, you know,
Right.
my mind is tired.
Right.
You know, and he would go out, and that was his release, was to go out and work, and it was like my release, unfortunately, but was to just be a slug on the couch.
No, that's okay. You're
Yeah.
allowed that.
Yeah.
You put in a hard day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so now we work on that. We do that together. We both love going to small towns. Even here, I looked up what shops are in Marino.
Okay. So you like to go see all the little shops
The little shops, and we both liked. We love secondhand shopping.
Okay.
Love it. Just kind of like a treasure hunt for us. Tomorrow we're going to. It's called Good Makers Market in Tipton. It's awesome.
Really?
It is so awesome. If you ever, it's a lot of crafters and things,
Yes.
but I mean more than when I say crafters, it's much more than that. But we've been to that twice, and we're going to go tomorrow. We always had to go on a Saturday, but it starts 3 o'clock tomorrow. So
Oh,
we'll go
nice.
Tomorrow. And I take my mom on errands in the morning, and then I'll have that to look forward to.
So it sounds like you stay pretty busy and you do things you
We
love
do,
with
we
Brad.
do.
And
Yeah, and next week I'll be babysitting the baby. He just turned a year in
Oh.
July. He's so adorable. Anyway, his name is August, and his babysitter is on vacation, and so I'll be taking my granddaughter Blake to school, his sister, and then have him for 4 days in a row. That's the first. We
Yeah.
haven't had that much time.
oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I am busy. My calendar is,
It sounds like your calendar is very busy.
Yeah.
Has it been that busy since retiring?
yes. When I first retired, I had a lot of medical appointments, and so I felt like I was going to the doctor all the time. But now it's more.
Okay. So tell me more about the medical appointments.
So when I was working, I noticed kind of a weakness in my right hand, and especially like using a mouse and trying to
Mhm.
my fine motor skills in my right hand. I could tell something was off. and I had a lump in my arm. I thought it was due to that. Went to my doctor, who sent me to an orthopedic doctor. He could not. He said he didn't think it was anything, not like carpal tunnel or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent me to a neurologist. Actually, sent me to a neurologist in Washington, Iowa, instead of Iowa City. Just because he said it takes so long to get in.
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
I really liked. I'm so glad I went to
Good.
Washington. This is an hour drive, but it was
Right.
yeah. So I had an MRI, and the MRI throw shows 3 white spots on the MRI in my brain, and he used the word stroke over and over and over again, and I was just like, when? How did it? I mean, I don't remember anything like that, but I think they are more of like an ischemic. They're small strokes,
Okay.
and what it says on the diagnosis is small vessel. Can't remember the word now, but basically it's like if I don't get my health in check,
Okay.
because I've never had high cholesterol, I've never had high blood pressure, and now I do. And that just came on in the last maybe 6 months.
So the high blood pressure and the high cholesterol did?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when they found those, it was like, oh, and he thinks that's what's affecting my right hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't notice it as much now because I'm not working, so I'm not using a mouse, and but the way I describe it is like if you have a box, you have to check.
Right.
And try to get it in there, and then I take this and then I kind of guide it, and
Okay.
it's just frustrating. Or if I'm writing, sometimes my hand will just go off, and so there was that, and then I had long-standing right side pain. Doctor, MRI, sent me to a gastroenterologist, and finally came to the conclusion they believe it's a nerve entrapment. I think it's a entrapped nerve.
Okay.
And so now I'm going to a pain clinic for them to probably do what's called a trigger point injection, injection.
Okay.
Then I had my physical. My doctor said, since your past colonoscopies have been good, we're going to just have you do the Cologuard test. Did it, it came back positive. So then I went and had a colonoscopy. They found 3 large polyps, so then I had to go back again in 6 months. Had that, they found 5 polyps. They removed those and then did more biopsy of the larger ones, and everything is negative, which is good.
Good.
So now I go back in 3 years instead of
Okay.
6 months. So those were kind of, I guess, in a quick overall, that's kind of what I dealt with, and it just like started April.
Right after
I
your retirement.
retired April 5th, and it just boom, 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 and so I mean those things don't make me happy either.
Right. So it sounds like you've had a lot on your plate. You've a lot of large transitions in your life between
Yeah.
retirement, health,
Yes.
managing the children, adult children.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand that. That's a
Yes.
lot of stress. It's just a different kind of stress.
It
Isn't it?
is. Yeah. It is.
Okay. So what kind of goals would you like to set with us?
I don't. I wish I could. Like basically, why did I come here, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I even said to Brad before, I was like, I'm not real sure what to talk about. I just know that when I called, I just was in such a down place, and then,
You did.
and like now, it's like I can't even remember what, I had a conversation with him that day, and, I know that he says that he thinks, I think he thinks sometimes that everything that I struggle with is because of my parents. Because he said many times, and my brother and I both have had other people say this to us, like, how did you turn out the way you did with the parents you had?
Right.
And I think Brad really feels that way. So I don't know if, I don't know. I wish I could tell you. Is it that I need to, I mean, there's not much more I can do about my dad. He's gone. I wrote him the letter. I've
Yeah.
been through that. Other than maybe identifying how it affects me.
Okay.
Is that part of the reason that I don't have followed through? I mean, we definitely know it's probably the reason that I have PTSD. I don't recognize that. But when I took I was seeing a counselor. She sent me to this person, and it was pages and pages of questions, and and then when they did the, I guess, diagnosis, it wasn't ADD, it was PTSD. But I'm one of those people that, I start cleaning in the bedroom, take something out in the kitchen. Now I'm
cleaning the kitchen.
But at least I'm cleaning.
No, oh yeah, then I have to go back over here.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And then, like I said, just not finishing things. I mean, starting, projects and never finishing them. I'm all gung ho and then don't finish. I think there's so many people like that though. But why me? Why do I do that? Why don't I finish? Who knows?
So just kind of follow through and understanding how the past is impacting
I guess
your present.
Yeah.
And what is your opinion on the PTSD?
I guess, I mean, I was diagnosed with it. Sometimes I think of course I have PTSD. I was sexually abused, at 3-4 years old, and then again for a few years with my dad. And some of the details of that you just cannot believe. So I'm sure that I do, but I don't think there's things that affect. I don't think I have PTSD reaction to anything in my life right now. I remember one of the things they said that you jump easily, and I do. Maybe people are behind me or something.
Like easily startled?
I startle easily.
Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
But I guess. But I know there's more symptoms than that. I did have a hard time with, intimacy. I still do a little. When I went to counseling before, Brad and I went together at some point, and maybe this is weird, I don't know, but the counselor and we worked it out where basically that sounds weird, but I agreed that while I was working, that from Friday to Sunday, we would be intimate sometime during that time frame, every week.
Right.
And he was not to pressure me. It was going to be up to me.
Right.
Because I saw it as pressure. We've gotten into that routine.
Okay.
We still are intimate. There were times, because Brad can get kind of pouty if he doesn't. And I remember it's been recent, within the last year, I told him that it's very manipulative when you do that.
Right.
And I think that
triggered.
And for him too, when I said that, I think he took that to heart. So now, we're still kind of on that. I said we might go a little farther, than a week now that we're not Monday through Friday people anymore. But I think what I struggled with was, for him, that was very important to be close to me. He sees it as love, and I said I always saw it as, you just want to, I'm going to be frank, you just want to get your rocks off.
Right.
I mean, that's not what, sex is not love to me. That is, and I know that for him it is love, but it's almost like I refuse to see it that way.
Okay. So that's been difficult.
I guess so. But once we get on that schedule, I feel like he's happy, I'm happy, and so.
And we just flow, yeah.
Exactly. And we are. I mean, our marriage otherwise, and I'm not saying that that's bad, it's just, we see it from a different view. Our marriage otherwise, I think, is really good. We are best friends,
It
and
sounds like it. Sounds like you guys
Yeah.
do a lot together. And
we
have a
even
good
when
time.
we worked, we both worked for the city. We rode to work together,
Oh.
had lunch together, and we rode home together. And people would always say, like, how can you be with him that much? And it's like, I don't know, just, it's easy,
Good.
which is good.
That is good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's
All
not,
right.
I mean, of course there's things, but nothing, yeah, I'm very happy with them.
Sounds wonderful.
So there's that.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
you know, let me put together a treatment plan. Of course, I'll have I'll have people looking over it and making
Yeah, I
sure
feel
that
like
I'm
just
doing.
everywhere, and I apologize. I wish
No,
I could
don't
come in and
apologize.
just
No.
tell you, like, this is it, this is what I'm gonna work on.
Yeah.
I cannot identify.
That's okay. But I also want to make sure that you are feeling like you're receiving what the help you need.
Yeah,
And that's what counseling's about. And
yeah,
how can I be a support to help you see things maybe you're not seeing, because
Yeah.
this is your life and you.
I think that's it. It's
Yeah.
for someone else
Right.
to tell me what they're seeing.
Right.
That I
And that's just, it's eye-opening and it's helpful and will help you set those goals and
Yeah.
we'll go from there. So, yeah. So do you want to make an appointment for next week? And once I